You ready for this? He asked, his voice low and smooth, imbuing the mundane question with a weight that went beyond mere words. More than ready, Amara replied, a spark igniting in her chest. If we're going to turn this place into something special, we need to act quickly. I want every grape, every drop of wine to tell a story. A dance of shadows flickered across his face. Then let's make sure it's worth telling, he said, tilting his head toward the path that cut through the rows of grapes, the way forming a bridge between their dreams and the reality they faced. As they walked, Amara felt his presence beside her like a steady flame against a chilling wind. She shot him a sidelong glance. You keep looking at me like that, Alaric. You're going to make me think you're starting to care. He chuckled, a sound rich and unexpected. I think I've been accused of worse things. His tone lightened the air, but she could hear the undercurrent of vulnerability hiding beneath his humor. True, but that's not exactly a reassuring sign. She paused, and warmth washed over her, conflicting with the cool breeze that rustled the leaves around them. What if we fail? Alaric stood still for a moment, his gaze fixed on the horizon beyond the vineyard, where mountains loomed, a silhouette against the sky that echoed the challenges they faced. Failing isn't an option. We climb together, right? He caught her hand with a gentle grip. We reach the top or we drag each other up, he added, that teasing glint returning to his eyes. She squeezed his hand lightly, feeling the strength in his fingers, his warmth mingling with the soft kiss of the sun. I suppose you were always the ambitious type, weren't you? Ambition has its perks, he replied, pulling her slightly closer, especially when it involves climbing. The teasing lingered, but Amara felt something more serious brewing just beneath. You've had your fair share of climbs, haven't you? She looked up at him, hoping to catch glimpses of his hidden battles. He sighed, his smile softening, and the atmosphere between them shimmered with a potent mixture of camaraderie and unspoken truths. More than I care to admit, he said, glancing away momentarily, as if thinking better of it. What matters is the summit, and I'll be damned if I don't see it with you. The wind picked up, tousling her hair, and for a fleeting moment, Amara imagined them at that summit, victorious, out of breath, yet exhilarated. Then let's start climbing. Let's, he agreed, and with purpose, they stepped forward. As they navigated the vine-laden path, the surrounding world faded to whispers. The sweet scent of ripe grapes mingled with the earthy undertones of the soil, and threads of laughter from a nearby gathering echoed in the distance, a reminder of the life outside their bubble. Hey, he interrupted her thoughts, his tone suddenly serious. You know about those threats to the vineyard. We can't lose sight of that. I know. Her heart pounded, remembering the tension threading through the air in recent weeks. But this is my family's legacy, Alaric. I can feel it turning a corner. I won't let fear stop me. You won't have to. He halted, turning to face her fully, his expression fierce yet tender. We'll fight for it together. The moment hung between them, filled with electric possibilities. Amara nodded, determination igniting anew. They were more than two individuals chasing ambitions. They were allies bound by a shared dream. The sun dipped a little lower, painting the sky with shades of twilight. In that fierce bristling of intent and promise, Amara realized that climbing together meant everything. Together, she echoed, the word reverberating like a vow, and she took a step forward with him. There was no looking back now. Scene 84, lingering shadows. The aroma of sun-warmed grapes filled the air as twilight settled over the sprawling Sorensen vineyard. Amara stood on the terrace of the quaint stone manor, the fading daylight casting a golden hue over the ripening vines. She inhaled deeply, savoring the familiar scent that mingled with the earthy undertones of the rich soil beneath her feet. Yet even in this serene embrace, a nagging tension threaded through her thoughts. Shadows loomed across her spirit, invisible yet omnipresent. Alaric leaned against the weathered wooden railing beside her, his dark eyes scanning the horizon. He exuded a quiet intensity that mirrored the weight pressing down on Amara's heart. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of crimson and indigo, and the beauty of the moment contrasted starkly with the threat they faced. You'd think with all this, Amara said, gesturing towards the endless rows of grapevines, we'd have time to breathe. Instead, it feels like we're running a marathon. She ran her fingers through her hair, a cascade of ebony that soaked up the sunset light. Marathon or death race, Alaric murmured softly, his voice an undertone that sent a shiver through her. They've pushed us into a corner. It's only a matter of time. But we have each other, she shot back, her tone a mixture of defiance and hope. We'll get through this. We always have. He turned to face her, the tension between them thicker than the scent of the vineyard. You don't have to be strong all the time, Amara. You can let me. Let you what? Protect me? She interrupted, her voice sharper than intended. That doesn't work with men like him. They smell fear, Alaric. If I show any sign of weakness, they will strive to destroy me. Alaric's brow furrowed. It's not weakness to be human, Amara. Sometimes I wish you could see that. The hurt flickered in his gaze, echoing a vulnerability she had often sensed in him, but seldom acknowledged. Isn't that rich coming from you? She countered, crossing her arms in an instinctive shield. You stand there all, brooding and stoic, but I know there's something underneath all that. There was a challenging fire in her voice, but her heart beat louder, signaling a longing she couldn't quite comprehend. Alaric stepped closer, his voice low. If it ever comes out, you might regret pushing me away. The way he studied her, darkness mingling with intrigue, made her breath hitch. He was always steady, always in control, but now, a bare thread of uncertainty flickered between them. Trust me, I've pushed away things far worse, she shot back, and for a moment, the air buzzed with unsaid things. Maybe it's time we face those instead of letting them linger like ghosts, he said, the mood shifting as the sunset faded to twilight. You and I, there's too much darkness here. Amara's heart raced. This isn't about us being afraid. It is, he interrupted, gripping the railing in frustration, the muscles in his arms taut. You don't see the crap you keep burying. You deny it. It's like trying to hold water in a net. Water in a net? Really? That's original, she quipped, fighting back against the brewing storm of emotions. She could feel her defenses rattling. Why was this conversation so difficult? Amara, you can't just laugh it off. Alaric's voice rose slightly, a mix of desperation and intensity. It's why we keep circling, why the danger feels so close. The syndicate can sense our fear, not just yours. The weight of his words crashed around her like thunder. She turned away, pretending to gaze across the vineyards. Was he right? Was her defiance merely a mask? You think I'm scared? She said, her defiance thin but hovering. It's not scared. It's raw, Alaric replied, gentler now, his voice an anchor against the wind of doubt that swept through her. It's a reminder that you aren't invincible. Maybe that's why we make a good team, she found herself murmuring, her defenses starting to crack. You're the one who sees the rawness. It scares me. He took a step closer, his presence suffusing the space between them like warmth. Amara, vulnerability doesn't make you weak. Allowing someone in could be your biggest strength. She swallowed, her heart pounding in her chest, reflecting an emotion that felt dangerously close to love. Could she really let him see the true her? The shadows of uncertainty danced behind her, but his eyes, those deep, velvety pools of understanding, sparks of hope ignited within the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, letting you in is easier than I thought, she whispered, the soft confession hanging in the air. His gaze locked onto hers, a weighty promise of now and what could be sealed in their silence. Scene 85, New Allies. The soft clinking of wine glasses mingled with the low hum of conversation as Amara stood at the edge of her vineyard's makeshift meeting space. An old stone barn, now bare and bustling with the energy of community, resonated with expectation. Muffled laughter and animated voices flitted through the air like butterflies, drawing her into the conversation. But how can we trust anyone after what happened at the Parnell's farm? Sylvie, the local florist, questioned, her brows knitted together in worry. Amara stepped into the dim light, her presence commanding yet inviting. Because we're stronger together, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. If we unite our businesses, we stand a better chance of chasing these thugs off our land. Alaric stood beside her, arms crossed, his imposing figure a protective balm against the chaotic energy of the room. Unity sounds great on paper, Amara, but the syndicate doesn't play by the rules. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. Neither are we, Amara shot back, amusement flashing in her eyes. I mean, have you seen what I can do with a grape shears? The room erupted in chuckles, the tension easing slightly. Alaric smirked, his amusement fleeting but genuine. You, with a pair of shears, could probably take down half the mob if they're not careful. Flora, a sandy-haired baker with flour dusting her apron, chimed in. I've been experimenting with grape scones. Maybe we could launch a fight-back pastry campaign. The sudden seriousness of her suggestion left the room momentarily puzzled before laughter broke out again. Sure, that'll help us win a mob war, Alaric said, shaking his head but unable to suppress a smile. Hey, it worked for the French Revolution, didn't it? Flora shot back, tossing her hair dramatically. But what if they come for us at night? Sylvie interjected, her uncertainty surfacing again. My shop has no security. Then we take turns watching each other's backs, Amara replied, her conviction fortifying her crowd. We can rotate security, set up round-the-clock shifts. I'll even install better lighting around your shop, Sylvie. We can't hide behind fear. Alaric nodded, impressed. You always have a way of inviting chaos even into strategizing. Suddenly, the mood shifted slightly, and Amara found herself staring at Alaric, caught between admiration and something deeper. His presence was alarmingly stabilizing. They had come far from the barriers built around their hearts, and she felt them slide just a little further down. Haven't you ever wanted something that terrified you? She asked, vulnerability flickering in her tone. To stretch beyond what feels safe, just slightly? She could feel the intensity of his gaze. Alaric turned to her, the lively atmosphere quieting around their unspoken connection. Every day, he replied slowly, almost as if sharing a secret. But there's a fine line between bravery and recklessness. Balance is key. Your balance might be off then. Amara teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I'd bet you've taken more risks than you care to admit. A reasonable wager, he replied, an enigmatic smile ghosting across his lips. But right now, I'd put my money on the odds of you doing something dangerously impractical. I'll take that challenge. She stepped closer, the air electric with their shared energy. Let's make a pact. We rally this community, throw a massive harvest fest, and make it clear to the syndicate we're standing together. What do you say? And what do I get in return? He countered, leaning slightly closer, his interest piqued. A night of fun, no work talk, just harvest-themed games, she offered, a playful glint in her eyes. He smirked, clearly entertained. I might just hold you to that. As laughter resumed around them, Amara felt the weight of his gaze, knowing that whatever darkness loomed over them, she now possessed an army of allies at her side, and perhaps something even deeper with Alaric. Let's put on the best harvest fest this town has ever seen, Amara declared. The room erupted in applause, the infectious excitement lifting spirits like the sun warming the ripe grapes hanging from the vines outside. Together, she added firmly, locking eyes with Alaric. Together. He echoed softly, a promise hanging in the air. And beneath it all, turbulent winds of the past blended with the hope of an unwavering future, ready to embolden their hearts. Scene 86. Remnants of Fear. The air hung thick with the scent of damp earth and ripe grapes, a promise of sweetness steeped in the storm clouds gathering overhead. Amara Sorensen stood on the low terrace of her vineyard, where the wildflowers swayed defiantly against the wind. Each rustle felt like a reminder of the chaos swirling within her. She breathed in, trying to ground herself in the moment, yet anxiety threaded through her thoughts like a vine, winding tighter around her heart. Alaric Ughandu stepped outside, his presence grounding, yet electrifying. He carried the weight of secrets, an intensity that both captivated and terrified her. His eyes, dark as the storm above, searched her face. You don't look well, he said, a hint of concern breaking through his usual guarded demeanor. I'm fine, Amara snapped, pulling her away from him, crossing her arms defiantly. Just a little wind, no need to worry. Her voice carried a sharp edge, one she often wielded like armor. Your sarcasm isn't comforting, he replied, resting a palm against the railing as he leaned closer. We can work through this, you know. You don't have to pretend. Pretend, she interrupted, fury flaring at the implication. You think I don't know how it looks? A woman trying to hold her own against men who've been running this game for centuries? Deep breath, Amara. He remained unyielding, though she detected the tension in his jaw. This isn't just about your business. You're in danger. The attack last week. Is that your excuse? Amara retorted, her breath catching between anger and vulnerability. She took a step back, pressed her palms against the cool stone wall, the weight of the situation crashing down like the forthcoming storm. I can't let myself be distracted. I don't want your protection. I need to be stronger than that. Stronger? He echoed, incredulity threading through his voice. You think pushing me away makes you stronger? You're fighting against your own feelings now. And it's exhausting, Amara. Exhausting, she laughed bitterly. You don't get to pick the battles. You're not the one who has been fighting this alone. As the sky darkened, the first raindrops fell, splattering onto the earth and mingling with her rising anger. Alaric stepped closer, his voice low and intense. Fighting alone is exactly what got you into this mess in the first place. Let me help you, damn it! Their faces were inches apart, and for a moment, raw emotion crackled in the air, charged and thick. She could feel the heat radiating from him, the urgency of his presence. You think I can't be strong and accept help at the same time? She asked, her voice softer, trembling with a dangerous mix of defiance and fear. I think you're human, he countered, his tone lifting, coaxing. And humans need connection. Stop pretending you don't want this. You're letting that secret from your past poison the future you could have. The rain intensified, and in the chaos of the storm, something cracked within Amara. She felt exposed, her scars laid bare. Without thinking, she reached out, fingers trembling, brushing against his arm. It's not just the threats out there, Alaric. It's what's in here, she whispered, the vulnerability spilling from her eyes. His gaze softened, an understanding dawning. Amara, I promise I won't let anything hurt you. I've been where you are, lost, scared. You're not alone. He leaned in further, their foreheads nearly touching, hearts racing against the backdrop of roaring thunder. What if I lose myself again? She murmured, her breath mingling with the rain-drenched air, deeply entwined with the fear of loving again. You won't lose, only find, he insisted, the raw truth of his declaration igniting something deep within her. Let me show you. As the rain poured, drowning the earth in a cleansing shower, she pressed her lips to his, a tentative brush that ignited like fire in the storm. The kiss was an awakening, soft yet insistent, echoing the promise of survival beyond the scars of their pasts. They drew closer, engulfed in the moment, the world dissolving into splashes of rain, vibrant as their rediscovered connection. Let's face it together, he whispered against her lips, as thunder rumbled like the echo of a past they were ready to confront. And with that, love blossomed amidst the remnants of fear. Scene 87. Midnight Conversations. The moon spilled silver light across the expansive vineyard, illuminating rows of ancient vines twisting toward the heavens. Amara Sorensen stood at the edge of the sprawling estate, a gentle breeze ruffling her hair like whispers of untold secrets. She breathed in the crisp air, the almost heady scent of earth and ripening grapes mixing with the faintest hint of night-blooming jasmine. The tranquility masked the storm brewing within her, fears that tucked themselves into the corners of her heart, always lurking, waiting for an opening to strike. Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. The warmth enveloping her from the presence of Alaric Ughandu snapped her out of her reverie. He approached with a deliberate calm, his tall silhouette silhouetted against the glimmering stars. The silence held an electric promise, each heartbeat resonating between them, thick with unspoken truths. You shouldn't be out here alone, Alaric said softly, moving beside her, the weight of his protective instinct filling the space. His voice was low, a deep rumble that vibrated gently against the backdrop of night. Amara tilted her head slightly, glancing at him from the corner of her eyes. It's peaceful, she replied, her tone teasing but layered with an undercurrent of vulnerability, like a delicate glass teetering on the edge of a table. And the night has never seemed quite so alive. Alaric's jaw clenched as he studied her, the intensity of his gaze pinning her in place. There's a difference between peaceful and perilous, he stated, his brows furrowing slightly. You never know what's lurking in the shadows. Amara's laughter rippled through the air, light and surprising. Are you going to tell me that all shadows hold monsters? This isn't a bedtime story. He didn't smile, eyes deepening with concern. Unfortunately, this is reality, Amara. Monsters are all too real. He stepped closer, a subtle shift, and she could feel the heat emanating off him like a radiating sun, even under the cloak of night. "I know how to handle myself," she countered, a hint of challenge sparking between them. "This vineyard is my life. I've built it with my own hands. You think I'd let some crime syndicate flounder my dream?" Alaric lowered his gaze, measuring his words. "Yet here you are, standing outside, alone." There was a pause, and then he added, "You don't have to bear the weight of everything on your own." An angry flush crept up her neck. "No one said I have to, but I've had plenty of practice maneuvering through challenges." She tossed her hair back defiantly, but the vulnerability in her eyes betrayed her bravado. "Do you ever let anyone in?" he asked, a biting curiosity threading through his words. Alaric stepped slightly forward, their proximity tightening the tension in the air. Amara inhaled deeply, the air heavy around them. "Are you suggesting I need to be saved?" she scoffed, but there was a tremor of something beneath the surface, her heart racing to an old rhythm. "What if I don't want to be saved?" "Maybe it's not about wanting to be saved," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, yet it struck her like thunder. "Perhaps it's about accepting that there are things we can't conquer alone." His eyes bore into hers, an unspoken invitation wrapped in sincerity. The world around them faded, and in that fragile moment, it felt just like the two of them were suspended, locked away in a realm where vulnerability reigned. Amara's heart fluttered, and she stepped closer, the delicate space between them electrified as her breath hitched. "What happens if I let you in?" she whispered, the air thick with anticipation. He reached forward, brushing a loose curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering for a heartbeat too long. "Then we'll figure it out together." And their gazes locked, a fierce promise hanging like a secret between them. As Alaric leaned closer, the world around them narrowed to the warmth of his breath, the intoxicating allure of his presence, and all the things that had remained unsaid. She could feel her pulse quicken, the uncertainty morphing into a reckless yearning. And then, just before their lips brushed, the night deepened, and darkness bloomed around them. In that moment, everything shifted. She leaned into him, every hesitation melting away, as if surrendering to the weight of their shared fears and yearning hopes. Then, with exquisite slowness, their lips met, a tender collision of warmth and promise, squeezing away the scars of doubt and fear that had lingered too long. And as the kiss deepened, intertwining their destinies, Amara realized all at once that perhaps darkness could be a cocoon rather than a prison, a space where two souls could ignite against the odds. Finally breaking away, their foreheads touched, breathless and alive in the rich scent of the night. "We really need to stop doing this," Amara murmured, though the playful inflection in her voice belied the gravity of the moment. Alaric chuckled, his voice deep and resonant, "Or we can embrace the chaos and keep doing it." A smile bloomed despite the weight of their circumstances. Perhaps in the shadows they could find the light. Scene 88, Seeking Solutions. The late afternoon sun drenched the vineyard in a golden hue, casting elongated shadows across the neatly lined rows of grapevines. Each delicate leaf shimmered in the warmth, a stark contrast to the deep tension simmering in the air. Amara Sorensen stood at the edge of the property, her resolve etched into her features, while the soft rustle of the breeze echoed her worries about the future of her family's business. She took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp scent of ripening grapes mingled with the distant warmth of the bakery, where her grandmother used to make bread. "Amara, what's the plan?" Alaric Ughandu's voice cut through her reverie, firm yet laced with an urgency that both thrilled and unsettled her. He leaned against the ancient oak that sprawled protectively over their meeting spot, his tall frame radiating a magnetic intensity. "I was thinking," Amara began, her voice steadying, "if we set up cameras near the warehouse, we can catch whoever is behind these attacks. They've been targeting our shipments. We can't let them turn this vineyard into a ghost story." She shot him a determined glance, but beneath her bravado, unease fluttered like a trapped bird. Alaric straightened, the shadows on his face sharpening the contours of his deep-set eyes. "They won't just waltz in there if they know we're watching," he remarked, his tone clipped. "But they'll get desperate. Desperation leads to mistakes." She crossed her arms, fighting the stirrings of irritation at his nonchalance. That's a charming way of saying we should wait for them to make a move. Do you want to play chess in a minefield, Alaric? Look, Amara, he began, stepping closer, the scent of cedarwood shifting around him, a warm, grounded presence. I get it. You want to protect what's yours. But sometimes waiting is strategic. Amara's brow furrowed, her voice rising. It's not about strategy. This is my family's legacy. What if they come back tonight? Or worse, what if someone gets hurt? I can't. Stop right there, Alaric interrupted, his voice rising almost instinctively. You think I want anyone to get hurt? You think I'm sitting on my hands while you risk everything? He ran a hand through his dark curls, frustration electrifying the air between them. Then, what do you propose? She shot back, eyes blazing. That I just bend over backwards in trust while you play the knight in shining armor? You don't know what it's like to lose everything. Their eyes locked, the air tense and thick as honey. For a moment, vulnerability flickered across Alaric's face, a crack in his carefully constructed armor. I do know loss, he murmured, lowering his tone until it softened. I saw it tear through someone I loved. The night it happened, I could have stopped it, but I was weak. Do you understand that? Her anger wavered, a hint of empathy carving through her storm. Alaric? He stepped closer, the space shrinking, filled now with an incredible weight of shared grief. You think I don't feel the same? You pushing me away only tightens the vice. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to help. Amar swallowed hard, the sincerity in his voice striking a chord deep within her. Help me then, she whispered, lowering her gaze. Help me fix this before it takes everything from us. His breath caught in the silence, her vulnerability reflecting in his expression. All right, he replied softly, a hint of that familiar spark returning. But you need to let me in. This isn't just your battle anymore. The tension dissipated like morning mist in the sun, replaced by the small comfort of shared understanding. Alarm bells rang less in her heart. There was strength in partnership. Fine, but if we're doing this together, we're doing it on my terms, she declared, her tone shifting back to the determined woman he adored. Your terms? He asked, raising an eyebrow, a hint of a smile lurking at the edges of his lips. Cameras, yes, but we also need a security detail, or at least someone with a lot of very intimidating friends, she quipped, a spark of mischief dancing in her eyes. And just who do you think you're appealing to here, the friendly neighborhood crime fighters? He chuckled, easing his voice back to its usual rhythm. Don't underestimate my social connections, Alaric. My childhood friend has a brother who owns several boxing gyms. We can recruit a few muscle-bound fighters. He laughed, the tension melting away completely. Sounds like a plan. All right, Amara, you bring the ideas, and I'll bring the muscle. Amara felt a smile creep onto her face, the excitement of the challenge ahead intoxicating. Deal. Now let's get to work before I lose my temper again, she teased, stealing a playful jab at his side. As they moved toward the aging barn that would soon be their command center, Alaric chuckled low. I promise you'll find me irresistible when this is all over. Oh, is that so? Amara shot back, her laughter cutting through the darkness gathering outside. Then you better start acting like it. The sun dipped below the horizon, but the spark of their partnership shone brighter than ever, lighting the path ahead. Scene 89, a fragile piece. The sun hung low over the Sorensen vineyard, casting a golden hue that washed over the sprawling fields, transforming the grapevines into a sea of shimmering green and gold. Amara Sorensen stood on the porch of her family's home, her fingers gently tracing the rough wood railing, each groove a reminder of the years spent weathering storms, both literal and emotional. The scent of ripe fruit mingled with the faint musk of freshly turned earth, grounding her in a moment not entirely free of anxiety. There was an uneasy stillness in the air, as if nature itself held its breath in anticipation of the brewing storm between her and Alaric Ughandu. As if sensing her turmoil, Alaric emerged from the shadows of the doorway. He looked formidable, his dark silhouette framed against the fading light, a subtle scowl draped across his lips, a mere twitch of discontent. Amara felt a jolt in her stomach as their eyes met. His dark, stormy gaze bore into hers with an intensity that flared into something dangerously close to anger. We can't keep doing this, Alaric, Amara said, her tone clipped yet wavering, the weight of her words hanging thick in the air. Alaric stepped forward, his jaw clenched tight. Doing what, precisely? Having reasonable discussions about your vineyard? I'm trying to protect you, Amara. Protect me? She replied, disbelief mingling with sarcasm. Is that what you call it when you barge in and try to take control without even asking? I'm the owner here. Her voice rose, slicing through the thick evening atmosphere. His brow furrowed, the tension palpable. You can't handle what's coming, and you know it. Those threats aren't going away just because you pretend they don't exist. Your pride, it could cost you everything. I'm not a delicate flower in need of saving, Amara shot back, her instincts flaring. I've been running this vineyard since before you set foot in this town. I've faced bigger men than you. Alaric laughed, though it felt more like a venomous growl than light-hearted amusement. Bigger men? Just because you can play hardball doesn't mean it's the right game. Ever think that maybe I'm not just doing this for you, but to save your own skin? Amara interrupted, her tone biting as hostility simmered. This isn't just about you. An undeniable silence ensued, charged with the residue of their argument. Amara's heart raced, each beat a reminder of the emotional stakes at play. She felt the hard press of regret clawing at her conscience, a small voice whispering that their fight was a dance, one that had tangled up their hearts along with their lives. Seeing Alaric standing tall, arms crossed and eyes narrowed, Amara couldn't help but let out a frustrated breath. This isn't fair, Alaric. You're talking as if you're the only one who knows what danger looks like. I see it too. Do you really? Or are you just pretending so you can shield yourself from what you really fear? His words were sharp, but there was a hint of something softer beneath, an understanding that wrapped around her like a warm cloak. Even amidst the biting cold of their argument, she hesitated, the ache of truth piercing through her bravado. I fear losing everything. This vineyard is my mother's legacy, and I won't let it slip away. And you think doing this alone is going to ensure that? He stepped closer, intensity radiating from him as if he was holding the universe back with sheer will. Let me fight beside you rather than against you, Amara. We have to strike a balance. Balance? She echoed, her voice a murmur. The tension in her shoulders slackened slightly, surrender creeping into her resolve. And what do you suggest? A dance-off every Thursday? I might win. That unexpected spark of humor caught him off guard. The corners of Alaric's mouth twitched, and for a fleeting moment, the darkness that shadowed them both lightened, illuminating the vulnerability that lay hidden beneath their bravado. Well, I do have a way with a tango, he said, his eyes glinting with mischief as the tension shifted slightly. But if the point is to put our lives on the line, I think we might need a more traditional approach. Fine, but you'd better keep up, Amara retorted, a half-smile breaking through her frustration. Feeling the intensity of their connection shift, an unspoken agreement hung between them. As silence fell again, something deeper lingered in the space, an undeniable bond forged through struggle and vulnerability. In that moment, against the setting sun's glow, they stood on the precipice of either destruction or something that might just save them both. Together, Alaric said softly, his voice more than a promise, it became a lifeline. Amara nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of his words, and an electric calm washed over her, tender and fierce all at once. Scene 90, Catalyst for Change. The early evening sun cast a golden hue over the rolling hills of Amara Sorensen's vineyard, the air rich with the bouquet of ripening grapes and the sharp, smoky scent of the outdoor fireplace crackling in the distance. Laughter erupted sporadically from the small gathering of friends, a few of her closest allies from the city. They were here to celebrate her recent wins in the sustainable farming initiative, but the glint in Amara's eyes barely matched the twinkling lights strung above the patio. Something felt off, like a storm loomed just beyond the horizon. As Amara poured glasses of rosé and offered each friend a slice of her signature tart, Alaric Ughandu stood apart, his tall frame leaning casually against the weathered wooden post of the patio. A musician on the terrace struck a lively chord, but Alaric's focus shifted uneasily before sealing back into that simmering intensity. He turned away from the noise, his gaze locked onto the distant road, where a solitary black car rumbled toward them, headlights glaring like an unwanted intruder. Do they have a competitive grape-growing team I don't know about? Amara said, a feigned lightness dancing at the edges of her voice. She placed a glass in front of him, attempting to bridge the chasm of unspoken tensions that loomed heavy between them. Oh, definitely. They're coming for your Vintner of the Year award next. He smirked, but his voice lacked its customary luster. Instead, there was an undertone that shook Amara's resolve, a subtle crackle of foreboding. Seriously, Alaric, she pressed, sitting across from him, her heart pounding despite himself. What's bothering you? You're not even attempting to flirt with me, and that's without merit? Amara, I wouldn't go there if I were you, he interrupted, his tone shifting from playful to grave. He waved a hand dismissively, but Amara's hand shot out, stopping him midair. Look, I know this isn't easy for you, or me, but can we please stop pretending? She leaned closer, her voice softening as empathy flooded her heart. I can feel something's eating away at you. Alaric's mask cracked, just for a moment. The flare of vulnerability revealed a man desperate to speak, yet almost terrified to let the words slip. I came here to keep you safe, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. But every time I look at you, I wish I didn't have to. Then don't. Just be here with me, she urged, a fierce urgency sparking in her chest. We can tackle whatever comes next together. My vineyard is everything to me, yes, but... The ground shook beneath their feet as the car screeched to a stop, tires protesting against the gravel. Alaric straightened, his body taut like a bow ready to release its arrow. Amara, he spoke urgently, stay behind me. Fear danced in her eyes as four masked figures burst from the car, but a rush of indignation propelled her forward. What do you want? She shouted, defiance coloring her tone. But her bravery faltered under Alaric's fierce gaze. Stay put, Amara, he growled, moving instinctively to shield her with his body, the tension wavering like a taut wire. For a moment that felt suspended in time, the world around them shrank as the thugs approached, shoving away hapless partygoers. The laughter evaporated, replaced by the harsh reality of danger. One of the intruders, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, his voice smooth and sinister. Nice little place you have here, Amara. It would be a shame if anything happened to it, or you. He nodded toward Alaric. And you, hero, take a step back. No, this isn't just your playground, and I'm not letting you bully anyone here. Alaric shot back, positioning himself like a shield. Their gazes collided, the threat palpable, but it was Amara's heart that roared with rebellion. You think you can just barge in here and intimidate us? She faced the intruders, fire igniting her spirit. Not on my land. The masked figures laughed, but Alaric's tense form beside her grounded her. This was it. This moment would define them. Emotions whirled like autumn leaves caught in a tempest, and in that swirling chaos of adrenaline and fear, she felt the depth of her bond with Alaric solidify. That's the spirit, Amara, he said quietly, a spark igniting in his eyes, their connection deepening at the precipice of life and danger. The world crumbled outside, yet within, something else surged, as they braced to face the chaos together. With a fierce protector beside her and hearts racing, they prepared to confront whatever dark secrets awaited in the shadows. Scene 91. Echoes of the past. Amara stood in the middle of the old vineyard, the crisp autumn air tinged with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Rows of grapevines stretched endlessly before her, their twisted branches heavy with memories, some ripe with sweetness, others lingering bitter. The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting everything in a warm, golden hue that seemed to illuminate the ghosts of the past. Alaric leaned against the weathered trunk of a gnarled oak, his arms crossed, the soft rustle of his leather jacket punctuating the quiet. You know, he said, breaking the stillness, I spent countless hours in this vineyard as a child. Just me and the grapes. No one ever understood why I liked it here so much. Amara stepped closer, the scent of aged wood and musk enveloping her as she positioned herself beside him. I can't imagine why a boy would want to spend his time among plants. She said it teasingly, but beneath the light banter, her eyes darted over to him, searching for the deeper layers of his truth. It was peaceful, he replied, his voice low, almost as if the wind might carry his words away. No one knew who I was or what I was expected to become. Here, I could just be. But he paused, memories swirling like leaves caught in a whirlwind. It all changed when I saw what happens when darkness invades. She turned to him, her heart racing with a mix of curiosity and concern. "You can talk about it, she encouraged quietly. "We're past, not here." The intensity in his gaze was as fierce as the sunset, and Amara felt a chill run over her despite the warmth surrounding them. Not in this place. A silence stretched, thick and palpable, filled with unspoken words and emotions held too tightly beneath the surface. Amara could almost hear the distant echoes of laughter and joy that once inhabited this space, a stark contrast to the turmoil within Alaric. She reached out slowly, brushing her fingers against the rough bark of the oak, feeling its ancient strength. Alaric watched her, his expression softening slightly. "You really want to fix this vineyard, don't you?" The question was edged with a teasing lilt, but the weight of it hung in the air between them. "Of course, this vineyard is my heart and soul." Amara gave a slight smile, the corners of her lips pulling upward in defiance of the past. "Besides, it's a great excuse to keep you around." He raised an eyebrow, a smirk ghosting across his lips. "Am I just a functional tool now? An attractive hammer to rebuild your dreams? More like a vintage bottle of wine aged perfectly, full of potential, and way too expensive to waste." Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and for a moment, the tension faded into something light and playful. Alaric chuckled, the sound rich and warm, a note of genuine joy amidst all the chaos. "I'm flattered, truly, but there's a risk in coming back here for you, for both of us." "Then let's make the most of it, not the risks, but the moments," she urged, stepping closer to him until the warmth radiating from his body mixed with her own. The space between them vanished, charged with anticipation. He shifted, turning just enough to catch the fading light in her eyes. "You think we can outrun the past by simply ignoring it?" "No, but we can acknowledge it together," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The intensity of his gaze anchored her, drawing her into a fervent stillness where time felt suspended. The universe around them quieted, leaving just the two of them suspended in that moment. Without breaking eye contact, Alaric moved closer, the warmth of his breath mingling with the cool evening air. "Amara," he said, his tone trembling with urgency. "I can't." She closed the distance, silencing him with a kiss that spoke of lost time, of bittersweet pasts, and the unyielding hope for tomorrow. It was tender yet electric, a collision of everything they had been and everything they could become. As they drew apart, their foreheads pressed together, the world around them faded to silence, a blanket of shared understanding wrapping tightly around them. "Whatever happens," Alaric murmured, his voice strained, "don't lose sight of your dreams, even if they cast a shadow." "I won't," she promised, her heart pounding like the rhythm of a distant drum, igniting the uncertainties ahead. "Not if you're by my side." Scene 92. Storm in the vineyard. The air buzzed with the scent of impending rain, mingling with the rich, earthy aroma of wet soil. Amara Sorensen stood amidst the rows of her vineyard, her heart drumming a rapid beat as dark clouds loomed overhead. She felt the first gusts of wind, sharp as the tension within her. Shadows flickered in the corners of her mind, whispers of betrayals yet to be uncovered. "Amara," Alaric Ughandu's voice cut through the air like a thunderclap nearby, deep and resonant. He moved swiftly, urgency etched into the lines of his face. "We need to talk, now." "About what? The fact that someone inside the vineyard is feeding information to Giovanni?" Amara's words fired out like the sudden crack of lightning overhead, her eyes narrowing as she searched his. Alaric's expression hardened. "This isn't just about the vineyard. It's about your safety." "He's not playing," he said, stepping closer, his voice almost a whisper, but the tension wrapped around them was electric. "We're in a storm, Amara, and I don't just mean the weather." Her breath hitched a mixture of fear and excitement as the clouds erupted, pouring icy rain like cascading jewels across the leaves. The vineyard, usually a sanctuary of sunlit serenity, now transformed into a battlefield, highlighting the vulnerability they both shared. "I can handle myself, Alaric. You don't need to worry," she replied, folding her arms tightly around her body, as if to shield her heart from the gusts of wind and doubt. He stepped even closer, their bodies barely inches apart. "And yet you're standing in the middle of a storm instead of running to safety," he countered, his deep-set eyes penetrating her defenses. "Amara, you can't do this alone. Not now." The air thickened with unspoken truths, and just as she opened her mouth to retort, the tension broke as a clap of thunder rumbled overhead. They both instinctively reached for each other's hands, a reflex born of shared peril. Sparks ignited as their fingers intertwined, warmth exploding amid the chill of the downpour. All this, it's overwhelming, she admitted, her voice softening, revealing a crack in her confident exterior. His thumb brushed the back of her hand, sending delightful shivers skimming up her arm. Then let's face it together. I don't want to lose you to this madness, Alaric said, as the rain battered the ground around them, each drop a reminder of the chaos they were amidst. She looked up into his eyes, where the raindrops collected like jewels in his lashes. You have secrets, Alaric. If we're going to fight this together, you need to tell me everything, Amara pressed, her voice insistent, yet laced with concern. I promise I will, he replied, his gaze unwavering. But right now, we have to figure out who we can trust. Suddenly, the vineyard's stillness shattered as a loud crash echoed, a barrel rolling off the storage shed, quenched by the tumultuous rain. What was that? Amara gasped, her pulse quickening again. Alaric tightened his grip on her hand. Stay close, he said, his voice low and commanding. We'll check it out, but we need to be careful. Who knows what else is lurking in the shadows? They crept toward the shed, the chaos around them blending into the rhythm of rain. The air hummed with tension, an electric charge that had nothing to do with the storm descending upon them. As they approached, Amara felt a thrill that mingled with fear. Alaric was the protector she never knew she needed, but with every beat of her heart, it was clear there was more to their story than just the storm outside. You should know, she said, her voice a whisper above the storm. I don't back down easily. Neither do I, he replied, the corner of his mouth lifting in a fleeting grin, as if they stood together on the brink of something glorious, their fears momentarily washed away by the rain. Then let's weather this together. She met his gaze, unspoken promises hanging in the air like a delicate promise of both love and danger, knowing that out there, among the shadows, their true enemies awaited. The storm raged on, both above and within, but nestled in the heart of chaos, Amara found a flicker of courage ignited by their connection, forming an unbreakable bond. They were two storm-tossed souls, indelibly entwined, facing the howling winds of betrayal together. Scene 93. Facing betrayals. The late afternoon sun filtered through the dense canopies of the vineyard, casting a dappled light that danced upon Amara Sorensen's weathered hands as she adjusted the vines along the trellis. Each leaf glimmered with moisture, glistening like the shards of her fragmented heart, pulsing with memories of laughter mixed with the acrid scent of betrayal that hung in the air. Alaric Ughandu stood just a few feet away, his expression darkened by shadows from the branches overhead, a protective figure in contradistinction to the chaos that had crept in around them. Amara, he began, his voice low, reverberating with an edge of desperation as he turned toward her. We need to talk. She stepped back from the vines, her brow furrowed. Talk about what? Your slippery friends staying in the guest house while I'm one whisper away from losing everything? She replied, her tone edged with disbelief and wariness. Alaric's jaw tightened. Daryl isn't. Isn't what, Alaric? Isn't telling everyone that I'm losing the vineyard? That I'm falling apart? She brushed a lock of her hair behind her ear, the gesture fragile and rehearsed, yet electric with hidden anguish. Doesn't that make him a double agent in this family fiasco? Alaric stepped closer, the earthy scent of his cologne mingling with the ripe grapes. We can't trust anyone right now, especially not him. You can't let your emotions dictate your decisions. Not now. Her heart raced as she pushed back, as if you haven't let yours dictate every moment we've spent together. This is about my life, Alaric. You have no idea what it's like under all these vines. She gestured wildly, the sunlight catching her eyes, igniting a fierce fire in their depths. You think you understand the stakes, but you don't. Silence hung heavy between them, the world freezing in that fleeting moment, the air shimmering like the setting sun. He watched her, eyes sparkling with an intensity that made her ache for clarity. Amara, he said softly, when I stopped by the guest house to check on Daryl earlier, he was too friendly. I don't trust his motivations. Not for 1 second. She crossed her arms, the gesture almost defensive. How touching. a knight in shining armor, ready to slay all my family's dragons. Just remember, you're not the only one who's gotten burned here." Her voice softened, her tempest of emotions swirling like the wind rustling through the leaves, igniting the tension, the way their gazes interlocked in the dusky light. "Is that how you see me?" Alaric asked, his voice low and measured, revealing layers of vulnerability beneath the steely facade. "Somebody ready to charge in and fix everything?" "Well, you're not my knight, Alaric," Amara quipped, a hint of bitterness lacing her words. "You're more like the unreliable friend that nobody wants to rely on. My life is in shambles and you want to play savior?" Her heart hammered as their silence deepened, thick air prickling with unspoken truths. Alaric's eyes darkened further, reflecting the hurt concealed behind his brows, wrestling with memories better left unshared. "I refuse to be the one who stands by while you get hurt. You deserve more than that. More than Daryl." She took a breath, feeling the weight of his concern wrap around her like a warm blanket in the chilly evening air. "And more than you seem willing to give," she replied, the compassion beneath her sharpness flickering like candlelight. "Amara," Alaric murmured, leaning forward, their faces inches apart, the heat of his breath grazing her skin.